Good evening, guys. Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Sly Geordie, and welcome back to F1 23 My Team Career Mode for the Chinese Grand Prix in Season 3. And what a weird start it was in the first episode to this new season. Of course, our team has really risen up the ranks in terms of performance, and we were actually doing pretty good around Jeddah. I said I was going to give Jeddah a last chance on this F1 game as I had really been practicing. Yeah, it seems at this point we're still struggling around Jeddah. We did get really unlucky towards the end. We put everything on the line, and we ended up crashing into, getting spun out by Valtteri Bottas. It was a bit of a racing incident. I don't want to say it's Bottas's fault at all. It was more something. It was going to happen. Two did not go into that corner, but as you probably saw and definitely know of if you watched that last episode, our teammate Lance Stroll secured a podium, a legitimate podium for the team. There was nothing like Singapore Season 2 where we had to fight for it. He genuinely earned that position. Of course, he actually qualified ahead of us and finished ahead of us. A very good start for Lance in this new team identity. Of course, Pepsi has decided to sponsor Sly Team Racing for this season. We don't know about the future. We don't know about future seasons, but what matters is now. And right now, we are Team Pepsi Racing, powered no longer by Renault, but powered by Mercedes. We are a Mercedes-powered team from now up until the end of the season. Now, of course, I don't know what's going to be happening going into Season 4 onwards, because Season 4 is the 2026 season, so we'll have new regulations coming in. We also, however, have a new sponsor. I felt a bit off having Compass on the side of the car. There was a few parts of the livery that I didn't feel the best with. So I thought we may as well change it a little bit, and I decided to go with Highland. They are the new sponsor, replacing Suju, who carried over from last season. But yeah, look at this, your new and improved Team Pepsi Racing livery. There will probably still be some changes, yes, as you can see. I've recorded this episode quite a while ago. I procrastinate on these episodes quite often, because I'm going to be honest with you guys, my motivation to make videos on this game has died down a little bit, at least on the career mode. Well, it's died down quite a bit, actually. I'm not saying I don't enjoy playing the game, it's just the only videos I seem to be recording and editing recently are these career mode episodes. So I've decided to make a little decision, and that is to stop making them altogether, and instead we're going to be live streaming the My Team career mode from now on. The Season 2 finale live stream did really well, almost as well as normal videos do for me on here. So yes, we have the occasional blow up of a video, but honestly it's not worth it now. We've already won the Drivers' Championship as well in Season 2, so our only objective now is to win the Constructors' Championship, and we're making some good progress towards that, and I just want to play the game a little quicker, you know? With the live streams, we can do 2 Grand Prix per episode, so that's what we're going to do from now on. So this will be the last video that we do that will be recorded and edited. So from now on, it will be live streamed. You guys will be able to comment as things are going on, and obviously I'll be able to respond to you guys as things are going on. The commentary will be a lot different because I'll be racing while doing it, so I guess that would kind of be a downside to it, but yeah, we're not going to do it anymore. We're not going to do these videos anymore. We're just going to be live streaming them. Although, when a season starts and ends, I think we'll still do a recorded and edited video, because those are big occasions, you know? So the first episode of a season and the last episode of the season will still be recorded and edited. Unless, actually, you know, the championship's already wrapped up, because then I don't need to make a big occasion out of it. So what is guaranteed will be the first race of a season that will be recorded and edited from now on. This one would have been live streamed had I come to this decision beforehand, but I was so excited to get into Season 3 that I actually recorded Race 1 at Jeddah and Race 2 at China back to back. So I made the decision afterwards. It's taken me a while to edit this. Like, I think I recorded this like at the beginning of the year. It's now January 9th, so yeah, I actually recorded it last year. I think this was done last year, so it's been a while, and that's an upside to live streaming it. We won't have to have long waits for it anymore. Another reason that I did do the long waits was to make sure that each video had its fair chance of blowing up, if you will, like getting as much views as it could before it stagnated. And I don't like doing that anymore, you know. I feel like that's fine to do when a new game comes out, and like, you know, when we're doing a season 1, obviously, but you know, it's been over half a year now since F1 23 came out, or around half a year, so we're not going to do that anymore. But yeah, to get into what you're seeing on screen right now, we are actually going to be purchasing our very first ultimate upgrade in this episode. I'm just looking at which ones I could go with right now. They both seem to arrive around the same time. Of course, we still need to do some you know, adjustments, or not adjustments, some upgrades to the different departments. But we're actually going to rush one of these upgrades. I mean, look at how much development goes into it, and how much that actually puts us ahead of the rest of the pack. Like, that is a big chunk, a big chunk. And by the end of these practice sessions for China, we're going to have enough to get another one. So we're actually going to rush that one, so that one, should it go through, will arrive in our live stream just before Baku, and then the other one arrives just afterwards. So if they both go right, we're going to have such a big advantage going into Baku, and that's why we're rushing it, because the 4th race is Monaco, and whatever upgrades are going to happen clearly doesn't matter. If season 1 was anything to go by, our car was the worst on the grid, even though we managed to push it into the points quite regularly. Like around P7, P8 was our usual positioning outside of the top 6 guys, top 6 cars. But yeah, Monaco, like, you can win that as long as like you drive really well in the F1 game. You know, you could just be in any car and you could still win at Monaco. So I'm not worried about Monaco, and that's why we're rushing one of these upgrades to get it to Baku, because we historically haven't really done too well at Baku. Of course, season 1 Baku was an absolute disaster, and season 2 didn't go much better because we forgot to replace our turbocharger and had to start at the back of the grid. And this one could be just as much of a disaster if we're not careful. It's going to be a rainy race in China, so definitely some changes are going to have to be made going into the setup. But looking into the R&D, Red Bull have actually made a new upgrade, and that must be an ultimate upgrade, because they have gone pretty far ahead of the pack here. So watch out for Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez in this race. Every other team has pretty much stagnated. We've actually pushed out further ahead of Williams here. Haas have completely stagnated. Alpine, they've fallen, of course. Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri, I don't know if they're going to start catching up this season, but you know, we'll see. But end of the practice sessions, just like I said, we are now going to be purchasing yet another ultimate upgrade, and this one should be coming after Baku. Now, what I think is going to happen is that the one we've rushed is going to fail. I've actually rushed both. Oh my god, okay. That is... I mean, I must have had the mindset about Monaco, you know, that I was just explaining, clearly, because, wow. So here we are, back at China, of course, one of my favourite tracks on the F1 game. And yeah, things are going to definitely be different this time compared to last season. Of course, last season's China race was actually quite good. Although, if you do remember, we could have dominated that race had it not been for the fuel issue that we had towards the end. We're not going to make the same mistake this time, and honestly, I don't think we can, because, of course, it's going to be raining, so a lot of fuel will be saved there. But, yeah, making some necessary changes to the handling, of course. And if you saw last episode, you would know that we changed the qualifying format, and it definitely seems to have been the right decision in terms of good content, because, wow, was short qualifying definitely a strange one around Jeddah. Let's see how it's going to go around China, though. I'm actually a lot better at this track compared to how I was at Jeddah, of course. So, yeah, I'm quite looking forward to it, of course. This is going to be, in my mind, the first real indication of what this Mercedes-powered STR03, Pepsi STR03 can do. So here we are, our first lap of China in Season 3. And of course, like I said, yeah, this is going to be our first real indicator of what this car is capable of. Of course, Jeddah is a very straightforward track. Of course, you have those really high-speed corners that do catch me out, especially on this game, and I do hope eventually they make it a bit more lenient with the curbs, because I think for controller players, Jeddah is a bit too much. But yeah, here we are back at a normal track, in my opinion. Back at China, and Lando Norris has already set a fastest lap in the Mercedes. Perez actually is slower, so I did say keep an eye on those Red Bull cars. Of course, this is only the first of 2 laps that you get to do minimum in short qualifying. I say minimum, you can choose to do 1 if you want, but yeah, Lance Stroll actually places his car on P3, so yeah, keep a good eye on Lance, because yeah, he did really well around Jeddah, so the car is definitely up to scratch. Lance Stroll, of course, we've given him as much of a chance of a good position as we can by leveling up the personnel as much as we could, of course. So yeah, I think we've pretty much almost got them on max levels. So this is the best thing, the best position that Lance Stroll has ever been in his career, in my opinion. And boy, is he redeeming himself. We do set a faster lap time than him, however, but we're not quicker than the Red Bull and Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz, neither. I think that was the guy who placed P1. And now, as we start our first lap, we're actually giving a slipstream to Max Verstappen, and I think Verstappen was on his own lap, so we need to give him some space, of course. I'm not doing that though. I'm preparing for my own lap, so Max can do what he wants, but we're gonna obviously get in the way of his lap time, I'm pretty sure. I don't know, or maybe this is his first lap, who knows. But here we are, ready for our lap. If this is Max's lap as well, he's going to get a toe off of us, which is not going to be a good idea. But our first lap, I don't know if that was really any good, because we're like right down in P15 right now. But then again, you know, it's right near the end of the session, and we have just set a purple first sector, so that is a really good thing there. Of course, though, remember we've had to make some changes to the handling of this car, little changes to the setup, so I don't know how that's going to affect the rest of the track. We might have been the fastest in the first sector, but that's because it's a very technical part. Of course, Sector 2 has this straight here, and then Sector 3 has the long straight. That is where, in qualifying here, we are going to take a little bit of a deficit, but so far so good. The lap feels really, really good, and I'm really starting to really enjoy what the career mode is capable of. We've got some crazy driver changes. Alexander Albon rejoining the Red Bull family with AlphaTauri, Kevin Magnussen in the Williams, Yuki Tsunoda in the McLaren, Liam Lawson still in the Haas, of course, alongside Felipe Drugovich, which is insane. Didn't think he'd come back to the grid after his stint with us, but we are 6/10 up on our original lap time. What is that good enough for? P5. Wow. So I don't know how much of that I can put towards the setup, but definitely this difficulty, this 95 difficulty, seems to be perfect for us, and these are the people who have placed ahead of us. Lance Stroll is actually P12. That's pretty good for him, although in my opinion, he should be beating Théo Pourchaire. But we don't know how quick the Aston Martin is now, but we do know how quick the Red Bull is, and obviously the Aston Martin's actually pretty good. George Russell has placed it on P3, and the Red Bull's 1-2. Ready for the race. So without further ado, let's go to the grid.
The Chinese Grand Prix then is upon us once again. A race that saw Michael Schumacher claim his final Formula One victory in 2006, as well as Red Bull's first with Sebastian Vettel in 2009. There's no doubt plenty more drama to come here in Shanghai. The ever-tightening turns 1 and 2 will prove tricky in the slippery conditions here in Shanghai, and anyone that slides wide will lose a lot of time getting back on track. Turn 14 should still be the best place for overtaking, but we'll have to see some improvement in the weather before the drivers can take advantage of that DRS assistance. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. It's Sergio Perez on pole today, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Russell, Oscar Piastri, the owner driver, Sainz, Leclerc, Norris, Bottas, Gasly, Stroll, Ocon, Tsunoda, Liam Lawson, Magnussen, Albon, Drugovich, Joe, Teo Porcher, Sargent, Hulkenberg, and Nick de Vries rounds off the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? Anthony Davidson joins us in commentary for this one, and the main focus is right in front of us. It's a wet race. How does that affect your planning as a driver?
It is a touch damp, isn't it? Well, as a driver, there are 3 big things to worry about when racing in these kind of conditions: standing water, tyre temperature, and visibility. And judging distance to the cars around you is really tricky when you're driving through the vast amounts of spray that these wet weather Pirelli tyres kick up.
Well, it looks to be a full wet weather race, obviously. But I felt like there was a chance that we could have started on dries or inters, but it does look look that way, but the opposite in the forecast. It actually looks like it's going to rain a lot less as we go throughout the race. So there is a chance that we could pit onto intermediates at some point in this race. But for now, it's the one-stop strategy on the wets.
Here we go then, the formation lap is underway. There are wet conditions here today. Each driver will no doubt be mindful of the wet surface as they prepare to race around the track. So as all the cars take their positions on the grid, the teams will be hoping their strategies pay off for them in today's race. But the question I'm asking is which teams have got it right and which teams have got it horribly wrong?
Well, I highly doubt any team has got it horribly wrong here, as we are all starting on the same set of tyres. But like I said earlier, there's a chance we could be on intermediates at some point in this race. It looks very similar to how the British Grand Prix went in Season 2, where the conditions were good enough for inters. Now, the difference between this and then is that in the British Grand Prix, we were the only ones who pit for inters, and that was the right decision. No one else actually pitted for inters, and we were able to take a really easy win from essentially last to first. But that might not be the case in this race. I think it's quite clear in the forecast that we could be going on to inters. But without further ado, let's get this race underway. And it is a horrible start for George Russell as we do overtake him. Oh my God, he's being swarmed back there as we look to go round the McLaren of Piastri. But he bumps us off. He bumps us off the racing line. Very dirty from the McLaren Aussie right there. As he looks to go side by side with Carlos Sainz. The 2 Red Bulls going side by side as well as Max Verstappen makes a move for P1. I assume he's actually managed to do that. Yes, he has. As we now look to get a little bit of revenge on Oscar Piastri. We pull a similar move. We don't make contact though, but we do push him out of the racing line. So that was a bit of a receipt right there. I don't think that was fair what Piastri did. But now we look to chase after some familiar foes, Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen. Sergio Perez is there as well, but we never really ran into him too much in Season 2. He had the odd win here and there, but when Perez was getting the win, we were nowhere to be seen. So, yeah, but this time that's different. The 2 Red Bulls, of course, have had an ultimate upgrade coming into this race, and boy, it is helping them. Max Verstappen's actually starting to build a bit of a gap. I don't know if there's any team orders going on where Perez is being told to hold back, but I doubt it, because I'm pretty sure he qualified on pole. So this is just Verstappen being Verstappen, and looking to dominate the Grand Prix. And I'm pretty sure if the race continues on these 4 wets, that could be the case, as we are not really making much progress on these. I've noticed something about the F1 game is that the wet tyres don't seem to be very good, at least for the MyTeam car anyway. I've never really been fully comfortable on these 4 wet tyres. You know, I've always wanted to hope that we could move on to inters as soon as possible. So I'm really hoping that actually happens in this race. But yeah, end of the first lap, we're looking to chase after Carlos Sainz, and throughout the second lap, we actually do manage to make a move past Carlos Sainz, going down the inside there. A pretty aggressive move, but you're going to need it in these conditions because there's not much of a chance to overtake otherwise, because there's no DRS, and ERS is pretty useless as everybody has bucket loads of it, especially in wet conditions. It recharges really quick, so everybody will be using it down the straight, which means overtaking is going to be obscenely difficult, at least on the same compound of tyres as everyone else.
Okay, I've got a brand new race strategy on your MFT if you want to go and check it out.
Well, looks like it is happening. Looks like these conditions are good enough for inters, and if you actually have a look, it isn't really heavily raining anymore. The track is starting to dry enough to have inter tyres. Now, the question does remain, who is going to go in with us? Are we going to be the only ones? I don't know, but we've managed to set a purple second sector, but Max Verstappen on these wet tyres definitely dominating. He's actually not pitting. It looks as though Sergio Perez has gotten preferential treatment in terms of getting to choose which tyres he goes on, or getting to choose when he pits. He's actually pitting first, so ahead of Max Verstappen. Lance Stroll is going on with these wets, so I'm quite alarmed, quite concerned, should I say, about that. I really hope that Lance does pit at some point, because otherwise he's going to be a sitting duck. Liam Lawson pits for Haas, and Logan Sargent in the Williams pits. So that's going to be a really good move for him. He could have a really good chance at points, who knows. But yeah, now we look to chase down Checo once again, but this time on much better tyres, and I'm pretty good on the inters, so I'm quite confident now. I'm feeling a lot more confident on these inters than I was on the wets. We're about 6.8 seconds behind the rest of the grid, although I'm not sure how reliable that information is, given that Nick de Vries is so far behind the rest of the pack in qualifying, and it looks as though he is on the mini-map. But we make a textbook copycat move that we did on Sainz on Sergio Perez. He does put up a little bit more of a fight, but we managed to get past him eventually. So yeah, we're feeling really good on these inters. Purple second sector, so yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do in the rest of this Grand Prix. But a pretty weird start. Reminds me a little bit of how Zandvoort went. You know how we had to pit on the second lap, or how everybody used to pit on the second, had to pit on the second lap in real life. I don't know, but everybody's pitting now, so good for them. And Lance luckily was one of them, and Max was another one of them, and he's actually struggling from the get-go. Of course, our inters have warmed up a bit, so we're going to actually have the advantage of more grip as we pit a lap earlier. However, there could be an issue in terms of later on in the Grand Prix. Who knows? Because especially with my aggressive driving style. But for now, we've actually managed to overtake Max Verstappen. So yeah, he's back next to Sergio Perez. So I think technically this could be, should everybody else pit, a net P1. We'll have to see as we now look to make the move past Nick de Vries. He is 2.4 seconds behind everybody else. Oh my god, Nick. I feel really bad for the guy. He's just really bad in the F1 game, and for some reason AlphaTauri aren't replacing him. They replaced Yuki instead. Yuki went to McLaren, and they got Alex Albon. So a pretty good trade. If anything, in my opinion, they upgraded with Albon. But why is de Vries still at AlphaTauri? Who knows? But with that move done, we now set our sights on Guan Yu Zhou. Easy pickings right there. Very nice move around the outside. Didn't even have to wait for this textbook corner to go ahead and do it. And now we are back within the points. So if nothing goes wrong, at least we have scored points once again, but we are looking to somewhat redeem ourselves after what happened in Jeddah as we now make the pass on the Williams of Kevin Magnussen, and I completely fail my brake zone right there. I wasn't paying full attention, looking behind at Kevin, and I almost caused a race-ending crash with Yuki Tsunoda. That would have been a race-ender for us anyway, as we now overtake Charles Leclerc and try to get out of the slipstream, because the slipstream is actually quite powerful for cars that are more powerful than ours, and Ferrari is one of those cars as Charles Leclerc makes the repass on us, just like Nick de Vries did in the AlphaTauri, but Charles has made it stick, or at least he did, but of course the wets aren't anywhere near as good as the Inters in terms of grip. Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari is actually pitted, so I can only assume that Leclerc will be pitting next, but it's way too late. It's way too late. This has really jeopardized the rest of their race, as Oscar Piastri now sets the fastest lap, so it's clear to see that most of the grid is now on Inters. Esteban Ocon on the Alpine, making life a lot more difficult for us than the last two overtakes we did there, but we do manage to overtake the Alpine eventually and set our sights on the Mercedes of Lando Norris and the Aston Martin of George Russell. And even though they were about 4 seconds ahead of us, this is how much quicker the Inters are. We have caught up by the next lap as we now make a easy pass on George Russell and get into the slipstream of Lando Norris. We've actually almost pulled a second ahead of George Russell already because of that overtake, and it's going to be very soon that we'll be making this overtake on Lando Norris because of this the grip that these Inters actually have. And now we have two cars separating us and Max Verstappen. Lando and George still going ahead, and Verstappen is 4.5 seconds ahead, but of course we were very aggressive with that stint, and we are paying for it now. Look at the tyre wear right there, just eight laps later, and Verstappen has caught up quite a bit as well. Oscar Piastri in P3, so it's going to be a good finish for him, of course. Easy finish. Perez has actually fallen back quite a bit. I don't know what happened there. Maybe he's dealing with tyre wear as well. Sainz has actually managed to pull it back to 5th, so good for him as we now skip ahead to the last lap of the Grand Prix, keeping the MFD up, keeping an eye on our tyre wear. 72% on the left tyre as Max Verstappen is now pulled to about a second behind us. He is pulling a lot, so he hasn't nearly been as aggressive as us. He's been a lot more patient, and I guarantee a lot of his overtakes were done on the straight and, you know, dealing with a lot of people pitting as well. So yeah, very, very unfortunate for us as Max Verstappen clearly has fresher tyres than us. He has the advantage of pitting later and clearly hasn't been as aggressive as us. And yeah, this track is fully dry at this point. It's not raining, which means we're getting a lot more wear on the Inters, which gives Max Verstappen a huge advantage now. Honestly, any more laps in this race we wouldn't last, to be quite honest. So we need to make sure that we stay ahead right now, because we're going to come under a lot of pressure from the 3-time world champion, as our left tyre has now hit 78%. This is not good at all. But now we come around to the big, not hairpin, but almost parabolica type section here. It's one of my favourite sections on the track, just leading into the massive straight. I do love this track so much, but now we've got a bit of a problem. DRS might not be enabled, but we're running out of DRS, and Verstappen has a crazy slipstream. That RB21 is a rocket as he now looks to make the move, and we are going to get so aggressive with him. He is not taking this win away from me, and we managed to come around the final corner to win the Chinese Grand Prix with 80% tyre wear. Wow, that was a bit nail-biting towards the end there, but we got the win. P1, our first win of the season in the best car we've had yet, at least on paper. Let's see what Lance can do.
There'll be smiles at the factory after that one. A great race and a real team performance to take victory here at Shanghai. Anthony Davidson What helped them deliver this result, do you think?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
A show-stopping performance from the 3 drivers approaching the podium right now. It's been an interesting Grand Prix, that's for sure.
Well, our first win of the season. We got to thank the engineers, to be honest. I didn't really give credit to them throughout the race, but they're the ones who decided it was time to come in to pit for Inters. And of course, Red Bull are probably going to be kicking themselves that they didn't pit Max. Instead, they pitted Checo, and Checo fell behind. Whereas Max, I really feel like had Max pitted on the same lap as us, he probably would have won the race. Maybe. I don't know. We were behind the rest of the grid, so maybe he would have gotten held up and we would have taken advantage of that. But Max definitely would have been a lot closer to us, I think, if he did pit the same lap. But yeah, good win for us. And Oscar Piastri takes the podium as well. So really good for him in the McLaren. Yuki Tsunoda, don't know where he plays, but yeah, Lance Stroll gets a P6. Wow, really good. So I'm really glad that they ended up pitting Lance, and look at that. He's actually not that far behind us in the constructors standings, and because of that, we're actually P1 in the constructors standings. We've actually never been P1 in the constructors past the second race. Sorry about that. Because I think we were like P1 on the first one in season 2, sorry, but it didn't last long, of course, because we were carrying the team all by ourselves. But yeah, that doesn't seem to be the case this time. Lance is actually holding his own as the second driver we need, and when we're struggling, it seems as though if Jed has anything to go by, he can pick up the pieces. So P1 for us, P6 for Lance. Hopefully we're able to push him a bit further ahead at this point, and unlike a lot of other people that do these career mode series, I'm really not against letting Lance go to hold up the rest of the pack if we want to secure better positions for the team. I'm thinking in terms of like a 1-2 situation, you know? We'll see what happens though. I'll see you guys next episode because we're going to be live streaming this career mode from now on. Thank you guys for watching. Comment, share, and subscribe. I'll see you soon. Peace!